All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard today's edition of not Timcast IRL, although, of course, it is Timcast IRL. In fact, it is Posobiec IRL. Yes, the Posobiec has returned. Tim is, of course, on assignment. He is down, I believe, taking care of some business in the great state of Tejas. But until then, Jack Posobiec is here. I want to say, by the way, a special thank you to Tim Pool for coming down and covering all of last week at the Turning Point headquarters. Obviously, everyone there, we're still dealing with the loss of our friend, the loss of our leader, Charlie Kirk, his horrific murder, and all that comes along with it, and trying to figure out what the new normal is there. But Tim spent the entire week at the headquarters, brought his entire team, everybody out. We did some great shows together. We were wearing sombreros in the Charlie Kirk studio, and we had a really good time because the mission continues. And so I'm sure Tim will be listening to this later. And so I just had to say that, from the bottom of my heart, really appreciated him being there and showing us the support that he did. He says it was just because of scheduling, but I know you don't just spend an entire week because of scheduling, but we're really excited to be here. I'm excited to be able to fill in for Tim in this capacity because, hey, he was there for us when we needed it as well. Want to give a quick shout out before we get into the show. And by the way, we've got so much stuff to talk about. President Trump talking about the Insurrection Act. We saw a ton of violence all over the country this weekend, particularly in Chicago and Portland. We're going to get into all of that, as well as the fact that the local officials there are outright saying that they will not comply with the federal government. And one of which even invoked the words civil war. Who was it? We'll tell you soon. Also, new text messages out in the J. Jones scandal, which continues to spiral out of control in the Attorney General's race in Virginia, as well as affecting the governor's race, lieutenant governor's race. We also have huge news about the FBI and Jack Smith conducting secret surveillance of GOP senators and potentially even congressmen as well. That was just declassified. Insane, but hey, it's clown world, and we're just out here defining the clowns. So I'm Jack Posobiec, filling in for Tim, who is on assignment. I do want to tell you guys about Cast Brew Coffee. And I was told, oh man, there are new Cast Brews, but I forget which one the new ones are. Guys, which ones are the new ones? Mary's Ghost Blend. Mary's Ghost Blend, that's right. I love Mary's Ghost Blend, which I've never had, but it's so good. I love it. It's delicious. Where is it?
It's s'mores.
It's literally s'mores. Is that right?
Yeah.
Bill's here to help me out. Oh, it's on the second page.
I think so. Maybe even the third.
Guys, if you got a new... No, that's Ian's graphing ingredient.
There you go.
There's Mary's Ghost Blend. Oh, my gosh. Look at that.
I mean, it's perfect, right?
It's literally perfect. Oh, my gosh. Mary's Ghost Blend. A hauntingly delicious medium roast. Mary's Ghost Blend brings the nostalgic taste of campfire s'mores to your cup. Infused with natural flavoring, this smooth, aromatic blend features notes of toasted marshmallow, crisp, rich chocolate, graham cracker, perfectly balanced for cozy mornings or a late night whisper. It's a spirited brew you won't soon forget.
Poso's ready for Halloween. It's spooky month.
We get a little spooky around the Poso household. And then what was the other one? Was it Bocus?
There's Mr. Bocus. There's Seamus.
Wait, there's Luck of the Irish Seamus, and we actually have Seamus.
Who? Oh my gosh,
Joining
he's
us.
back. That's right. Should I do my spiel now? Let everybody know who I am?
No, not yet. Not yet.
Okay.
Just talk about the brew.
This is some of the best coffee I've ever had, ladies and gents. If you want to put your money towards any of the coffee here, this is the coffee that I would suggest to you. It's delicious. Magically so. And I'm going to check with a lawyer to see if that's a legal
I don't know if you're allowed to use that phrase.
I'm not. I'm just saying that it is delicious to the point where I would consider it to be somewhat magic.
They're always stealing me Luck of the Seamus.
They're always stealing me caffeine.
Does a bag of that come with a spoon?
I don't know. I don't understand the
When it's
inside
in
joke
spoons,
of that.
Well,
maybe?
I don't know what that comes from.
It's incredible stuff. This episode is brought to you by Cast Brew Coffee. Go over to castbrew.com. Check it all out. And in addition to that, we've got some interesting pre-recorded messages from Tim Pool himself. Let's play it.
We got some great sponsors. We got Beam Dream. Head over to shopbeam.com/TimPool. Buy your Beam Dream right now. This is amazing stuff. You got the original cinnamon cocoa. I drink this every night before bed. It's got magnesium, L-theanine. It's got melatonin. It helps you sleep. And only 15 calories, no added sugar. It tastes great. If it was literally nothing but a cup of hot cocoa, I'd drink it anyway. But you know what? My sleep has improved markedly. I didn't even realize my sleep could be better because I thought I was doing pretty well. But I started drinking it consistently every single night. And now my sleep score is like 95 to 100, not even an exaggeration. So check out shopbeam.com/TimPool. Pick up your Beam Dream today. If you've been seriously injured, your case could be worth millions. And it's important you know exactly what your rights are. That's why I want to tell you about Morgan & Morgan. They're America's largest injury law firm with over 1,000 attorneys working in all 50 states. And unlike a lot of firms that settle quickly, Morgan & Morgan doesn't take lowball offers from insurance companies. Just in the past few months, they won $12 million in Florida when the insurance company offered only $350,000. And in New York, they scored $6.8 million on a case that only offered them $275,000. And the best part, it's absolutely free unless you win. Insurance companies try to pay out as little as possible. Morgan & Morgan fights to get you more if you become their client. It only takes a few minutes to see if you have a case. And you can do it right from your phone. It's that easy. You can start your claim now with Morgan & Morgan at www.forthepeople.com/Timcast or click the link in the description below.
Okay, so yeah, check out the great new sponsors that Tim has, but we're also going to be checking out the great new guests that we have. First time. Who are you and what do you do?
I am Morgan Murphy, candidate for U.S. Senate in Alabama.
All right, we got a candidate, folks.
Right.
We got a candidate. Should I give him the traditional Tim Pool, Bill of Rights questions?
Sure.
We'll go through. We'll get there. Don't worry. What's your background?
I'm a Navy captain in the reserve. I started off in
Navy.
Yeah, started off fellowship mate over there. I started off in magazines though in the '90s, back when magazines had money. So I was working for
Magazines. What are those things?
I know. It's
You mean like you
people
put
don't
in your
believe it
rifle?
now.
Yeah.
Right,
Those
that kind of
magazines.
magazine. No, I started in Vanity Fair and Forbes back in the '90s when magazines. We spent more on champagne at Vanity Fair, I think, than they spend on a whole magazine today. But
Is that when Chris Hitchens was there?
it was. I did a lot of research for him. I was an intern, so I got a lot of coffee and dry cleaning for Graydon Carter and Christopher Hitchens.
Wow.
But that was the first time I interviewed actually the president. So I've interviewed Trump back in the day. We'd call him if the stories were slow. But I joined the Navy Reserve in 1999, went on to become the executive editor of Southern Living, where I covered food and travel, which was like a gravy train with biscuit wheels, and eventually got deployed to Afghanistan in 2010 and 2011, which killed my neocon beliefs when I was there. We can talk more about that later, but got into politics after I felt like our culture was collapsing, and if normal people didn't go to Washington and help out, we'd lose the country. So I went up in 2020 in the last year of Trump's first term, and was the press secretary to the Secretary of Defense. And then after the election was stolen, I went to work for Tommy Tuberville, the great senator from the state of Alabama. Coach Tuberville and I fought the Biden administration. I was proud to stand with him as we fought it tooth and nail over things like the Afghanistan withdrawal, Ukraine funding, unlimited abortion on demand, etc. And then I just wrapped up another tour with the second Trump administration working for General Keith Kellogg.
Based. Sounds good, guys. Sounds good. All right, we'll put you to the test as we go through, as maybe not as directly as Tim would, but I think we can get there. Let's go around the room a little bit. Who are you?
Seamus Coughlin. My name's Seamus Coughlin. Some of you remember me from when I would make infrequent appearances on the show a while back. And I've been getting asked this question by fans of Timcast a lot, fans of my work. They're going, when are you going to go back on Timcast? Where have you been? What happened?
No one's asked this
some people
question, literally.
speculating.
We've actually been getting comments that saying thank you so much for keeping Tim or for
No,
keeping Seamus
that's what
off
they're
to
saying. They're like,
Tim.
what did he do?
Why is
How
Tim
do I
letting him
get
back
you away
on?
from me? Exactly. Everyone's
So
very
much
excited.
smoother and better and
A
funnier.
million times better, and it's horrible when I'm here, but there's a reason I have to come back. And the reason I have to come back is related to the reason why I was gone. I am working on something very special. I've spent the past 8 or 9 months putting together a show. I'm making an animated show, full length. The plan is to release it for free on YouTube. And we just released our crowdfunding video for it today. It's an animated anthology series. It's comedy. It's science fiction. I think you guys are really going to like it. Think kind of like Twilight Zone's Black Mirror, but instead of what you get with a lot of modern shows where they try to do this over-the-top pseudo-intellectual nihilism, we actually have an angle. We're trying to spread a productive message, but most importantly, we're trying to do it through humor and through story, which I think 99% of conservative humor and content has failed to do. But I'm not going to ask you to take my word for it and my word for the fact that this show's good, because we've already made the pilot. It's a 25-minute long pilot episode. If you go over to twistedplots.com, that's the name of the show, Twisted Plots, and you donate to our crowdfunding campaign to fund our first season, you will be able to watch the entire first episode of our show that's available for the first 24 hours of the campaign. So after the first 24 hours are up, you're going to have to donate at a certain tier to be able to watch the entire pilot. But right now, if you go over there, twistedplots.com, you donate, you support the show, you will be able to see the entire pilot. I think you guys are going to love it. I think we're going to change and shape culture. I think what we're making here is really special. And so I want to thank you guys for having me back on here. I really want to thank you guys. If you're considering donating, go over to twistedplots.com.
That's awesome. And like everybody knows, of course, Seamus from Freedom Tunes and the work that you've done to push the cultural space. What platform are you using for crowdfund?
So right now we're using Give, Send, Go, but we actually have our own infrastructure set up on a landing page that we built to give people an idea of what tiers they'll get and what they'll have access to. So as soon as you donate, again, because it's within the first 24 hours of our launch, you'll get an email. It'll have a link to the pilot behind the paywall. I think you guys are going to love it. It's something we're all very proud of. We are very excited to make more of it. So please donate. Please help us get to our goal. We're at 30,000 right now. We need to get to 500,000. The reason for that is in order to make an animated show, we basically need a staff of 8 to 10 people working for an entire year to make this all happen. So we're going to need to get this all funded in order to continue to produce it. But I really think it's special. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. Our full cost for our entire season is actually less than the inflation-adjusted cost for what it took to make one episode of South Park in 1997. That's how efficient we are with our budget. So I promise we're going to stretch your dollar. I promise we're going to get you good content. And I promise you it is not going to be the boring conservative dreck you get where it's a guy ranting instead of stories being told and jokes being made.
You know it's going to be good. You know it's going to be good if Seamus is behind it. But
Thank you, brother.
If you're also looking for something a little twisted, you might want to check out Shane Cashman.
What's up? I saw a sneak peek of Seamus's new feature, and it's hilarious.
Is it any good? Or
Thank
is he
you.
like,
It hurts me to say it publicly, but it is hilarious.
Are you paying him? Is that,
$7,000?
He would never be on my payroll ever in a million years. We have to stretch our budget.
That's why it's $500,000.
that's where the money's going now. I see. That's the 500,000.
Yeah, I am the host of Inverted World Live, and tonight I should be getting a phone call from the star of Tiger King, Joe Exotic.
Wait. I thought he was
prison.
in jail.
He is calling me from prison at 10 o'clock. I'll be running out of here at like 9:30 to take that phone call.
Joe Exotic is going to call into your show. This isn't like an AI bit.
This is for real.
You've done a voice changer.
Yeah.
This is legit.
Yep.
Bureau of Prisons has signed off on this.
Yes, yeah. And he's going to ask for a pardon.
Well, I'm sure he will, yeah.
So that's going to happen. We're also going to talk about creepy robot faces, human eggs that are grown in a lab recently. And I got probe news. You know, you guys following the probe, the aggressive probe that's coming here from space. Oh, it's on its way.
Oh, this is the one you've been talking about.
Yes, every day there's new news, and there is new probe news today. And we'll get into that later. Yeah, I know everyone's waiting. It's coming. So
yeah, my wife, we were having breakfast this morning. She goes, "What's up with the probe? I need more info on the probe."
Yep. Everyone's got probes now.
Yeah,
so.
she's just been really concerned about the probe. And of course, someone else who's always probing.
Wow. Oh, God. Transitions, guys.
Hello, everybody. My name's Phil Labonte. I'm the lead singer of the heavy metal band All That Remains. I'm an anti-communist and a counter-revolutionary. Let's get into it.
Probative value. All right, guys, we got to get into this because I know if Tim were here, it goes without question, this would be the very first story. And we got it up from Politico, so you know it's true, right? President Trump, he said this publicly, that he's open to invoking the Insurrection Act itself. And we know that he's, been getting close to it. We know that he's been kind of toying around with the idea. No, I got to spend pretty much the entire day with President Trump yesterday. I had the honor of accompanying him on Air Force One. We had the Navy's, it's the celebration of the Navy's 250th birthday, which actually comes next week, but we celebrated it this week.
Huzzah.
Yeah, hoo-yah that. And it just, it just worked out for scheduling purposes. So, shout out to the White House. Very excited and very honored to have been able to accompany, to ride greatest plane in the United States, the greatest plane in the entire world, to celebrate the world's finest Navy there yesterday. But this was not a topic that came up. But while we were on Air Force One, so he's got the news on. It's always Fox News, of course, and you're seeing that. Yes, they were showing the naval exercises and the sea power demonstrations, but it was video after video of the violence that's going on in Portland and Chicago just over and over and over. And so you have to imagine that he's sitting there and he's watching this as well, and he's realizing that he has the power to change it. And here's what he came out today saying in response to this. So a federal judge just blocked the president from sending National Guard troops to Portland, Oregon, which President Trump has said has been taken over by left-wing domestic terrorists. And I think, by the way, speaking of which, I believe Nick Sortor also just had his charges dropped, which is huge. So the Multnomah County DA, that's where Portland is, has declined to continue up these charges. He was arrested as a working journalist on the ground, targeting all of these things that are going on, just showing us the truth of what's happening. He gets arrested, even though you can see all the videos, he's the one who's being attacked. So God bless Nick Sortor for being out there and doing that. And here's President Trump. If I had to enact it, I'd do it. Talking about the Insurrection Act. If people were being killed and courts were holding us up, or governors or mayors were holding us up. You look at what's happened with Portland over the years, it's a burning hellhole. And then you have a judge that lost her way that tries to pretend there's no problem. Wow. You're running for office. Morgan, what do you think?
Well, I think he's absolutely right. This came up when I was with the Secretary of Defense in his last term. So you might remember Dr. Mark Esper.
Yep.
Got out in front of the president and said, I don't think there's any need to invoke the Insurrection Act. And that's the biggest difference between Trump 1 and Trump 2, in my mind, is that there aren't people backbiting him in his own administration. And Trump 2, you're not going to hear Pete Hegseth get out and start making a policy call on whether the Insurrection Act needs to be invoked. And we all saw the mostly peaceful protests during BLM in 2020. And I think the president was absolutely right there to say we needed to put those down and save lives in federal buildings and property. Which
Mark Milley apologized for, by the way. I'll never forget this, that Mark Milley, they go and clear out Lafayette Square Park, which is just north of the White House, and Antifa's out there. They're setting fire to St. John's Church, which is just, adjacent to that. It's all sort of in the same complex just beyond the White House, but it still has a lot of Secret Service and a lot of protection there. And they camp out. The Secret Service is doing what they can to at least protect the compound. The President of the United States, remember, they made fun of him.
Yeah, that's right.
Because they brought him down into the bunker. They were making fun of, they were laughing about this. They were setting fire to historic buildings and churches. Again, setting fires to churches. Where have I heard this one before? And President Trump says, clear them all out. And they go and clear them all out, and they did the walk. Remember, they do the
That's
walk.
right.
You weren't there for the walk, were you?
Yeah, I was not there for the walk.
There for the walk.
But watched the walk, and Mark Milley was later, General Milley was really upset that he had been photographed in that
And he
walk.
apologizes.
And he apologized. He apologized to Barbara Starr. I think he was upset that, one, he'd worn his camos over to the White House. He liked them because they were roomy, right?
Yeah, I never understood that, by the way. Why, if you're going to the White House and you're going to be in the Oval, you
Class A's.
You would wear your Class A's, absolutely.
Every
you
time.
would put on.
He didn't like the Class A's.
Probably
Was
looks in it.
he on the large side?
What I'm trying to say, he was a husky size.
So he was probably offended by the Sec War's new directives.
He'd be the first one. He'd be the first one. I love what Pete Hegseth is saying. Is we're going to make the generals PT. We're going to hold them to the same standard. Love that. But yeah, he walked across. He was embarrassed by it and apologized by it. That's what got Dr. Esper crossways with the president, because the president makes the policy call, not the Secretary of Defense.
Look, guys, and we should go around and show this, but I mean, the violence that's going on throughout Portland, throughout Chicago, and I believe do we have that clip? Can we play this? Can we play this clip of the Chicago mayor? Because as crazy as Portland gotten, I don't think that we've heard a higher level official from one of these areas say something as horrific as this.
Yeah,
let's at least play the first part of it.
Play it.
Can I just play it here? Okay.
Yeah.
The right wing in this country wants a rematch of the Civil War. I want that to sit in right now, because the President of the United States of America has declared war on the people of Chicago and people across America.
That's right.
He's more interested in giving billions of dollars to other nations, while farmers in urban cities around this country are literally being destabilized.
Yeah, does anyone know what he's talking about the farmers in urban cities?
Dude, he's just
that are
making
being
things up.
destabilized?
Well, this is something I've
Where
said.
are the urban farmers?
Yeah,
They're pot farmers.
Well, those
Okay,
are
pot farmers,
words
yeah.
Well, you
that
have
came
to
out of his mouth.
The liberals, I mean, these leftists, their brains kind of work like LLMs. They just throw words together into a salad bowl and they shake it up and then they pour it out. And after a certain number of times, they find that specific words get them the results that they want. But there's not actually a demonstration of a real understanding of language. This is why they call men women. This is why they call everything they don't like racist. This is why you're a homophobe if you don't want some pervert dancing in front of your child in drag. I mean, his words mean nothing, and that's why they mean nothing.
Well, I mean, look, the left largely doesn't believe in overarching narratives. There are just tons of postmodernists on the left, so they don't believe in overarching narratives. They don't believe that words actually have meaning.
Exactly.
They believe that words are a tool and words are used to assert power. So the meanings of the words don't matter. They don't have to believe them. And if you look at the postmodernist philosophers like Sartre and Foucault, they say things like, I don't remember exactly who said this, but he said it doesn't matter if I'm actually making a good argument. All that matters is that I'm interesting, because they don't believe in arguments. They don't believe that people can make an argument from an honest position. They believe that it's all about power. And when you have that as an overarching belief, or even if you don't have an overarching belief and you just adopt that mindset, it doesn't matter what I say. All I have to do is say whatever I can say to win the argument.
That's right.
That's what you get. You get these kind of word salad, vomiting of words. And we would hear this with the former vice president, with Kamala Harris. She would just say things, and they didn't really make a lot of sense.
Well, let's okay. So as crazy as that was, let's go back to the first part of what he just said there. The right wing in this country wants a rematch of the Civil War, which is literally nothing compared. There's nothing that anyone has said at all. No, we want the enforcement of federal law. We want the enforcement of federal law to be done. We want it's something called the Supremacy Clause of the United States Constitution that says that when there is a conflict between state and federal laws, national laws, that it is the federal government that comes first. And we know that in the Constitution, it is very clear that the federal government has the authority to enforce the laws when it comes to immigration. It's really simple. That's all this is. And by the way, we were talking about this before the show, that, those mayors and those governors could have done the work to try to prepare for this coming. They could have tried to help those citizens, or excuse me, they could have tried to help those people get out of there in the first place, help the citizens have relief from this massive influx of illegal aliens that came in. They did nothing. They did absolutely. What were they doing? They were supporting this policy. So no, it is not them who are pushing for civil war at all. It is you and you, this mayor of Chicago, and it is the officials in Portland that are fighting this, that are the ones that are in rebellion. They are in open rebellion against the federal government.
This
He
is
doesn't
why
even know his history. I mean, the history is of the South in the Civil War invoking states' rights. What are these people doing? They're invoking the rights. They're setting up sanctuary cities. They're saying you cannot have federal supremacy here. You're not going to move in here. So they've gotten the history completely backwards, which is gaslighting.
This is
on
why
another level.
they're a death cult, though, because they'd rather sacrifice their city. They let the cities burn. They let innocent people die, and not let Trump or the government protect citizens. They worship this death.
I completely agree with you. And that's the purpose of it. I've mentioned this on the show before. Leftism is just the intellectual rationalization for social decay. You find these very highfalutin ways of describing your desire to not do the things that you actually have to do as an adult to keep society functioning. And then you call that a belief system, and like certain other people who also want to abdicate all of their responsibility treat it as if you've said something profound because you've given them an out. And so that applies to every facet of society, and everything falls apart. We know Jack, I'm sure, would happily tell people about the history of this as a fellow papist. But you look at where the left comes from, it's the French Revolution. That's where we first get this term. And how did
100%.
the left enter the world stage? Beheading priests. I don't know if I can describe this on air, but abusing nuns, murdering innocent people. This insane, insatiable bloodlust was how they broke out onto the world
It's
stage.
Robespierre,
Exactly.
it's the guillotine. This is
Yes.
prior to the Bolshevik
Bastille.
Revolution.
The left are the genesis of terrorism because of the French Revolution, the terror during the French Revolution. That's where the term terrorism comes from.
And you might remember the School Board of Education in Chicago, I believe, during 2020 riots, rolling out a guillotine in protest of starting schools again.
Right.
That's insane.
These were the guys who started this. These are the ones who set it up. And you know, my British friends get on me when they say, well, actually, America was the first revolutionary. Okay, but you didn't see that in America. You didn't see that type of revolutionary reprisal violence. Certainly you saw the Revolutionary War, but you didn't see this idea of if people do refuse to go along with the revolution, they'll be destroyed. They smashed the Notre Dame Cathedral, by the way. They smashed all the stained glass windows. This fire in 2019 wasn't the first time it was taken down, attacked, I should say. And it was all the statues out front. I think it was the kings of Israel are the statues, and some of the saints that they all get smashed and destroyed. And the entire cathedral. This is beautiful. It gets converted into what they called a temple of reason. A temple of reason. Wow. And I'm like,
Sounds about right.
okay, so they were just Redditors.
They're like, yes, this is quite reasonable as they're smashing a church
250
window.
years ago, right? That's what they were saying.
Yes.
That we do not believe in these superstitions of Christ and Christianity. We believe in reason and wisdom, and that's why we're going to kill all the priests and nuns.
Well, and I just want to mention this. The American Revolution, it's kind of a misnomer in a certain sense. There was a revolt and there was a new form of government, but it was not as if they were trying to completely overturn the entire social fabric and build something new and anti-human in its place. They didn't try to recreate the calendar. They weren't trying to force religion out of society. They actually said it was very important for religion to have its place, and specifically for Christianity to have its place. So they were very, very different phenomena. And actually, with the French Revolution, many of the people who initially supported the revolution ended up recanting and regretting it when they saw what the other revolutionaries did. I don't think that was so much the case with the American Revolution. They ended up being pretty proud of what they built, and for good reason.
They had legacy in mind.
Yeah.
Not just ripping everything down and starting over. It wasn't a cultural revolution.
Whoa, guys, listen to this. They're now saying that this may be this sounds like a cartel. I'm just looking at the New York Times updates because we have to understand what we're talking about here. And we're going to ask you this in a second. I think what we're looking through are potentially the early stages of an actual insurrection against the United States government. This goes back to the Whiskey Rebellion, when George Washington, a sitting U.S. president, by the way, rode into battle along with Alexander Hamilton, sort of his the son he never had, And look at this now. So federal agents are now accusing a Chicago man of targeting a high-ranking member of the Border Patrol in a murder-for-hire plot. they're putting out hits on Border Patrol officials. This comes to the Trump administration. And of course, listen to the New York Times. Floods Illinois with immigration enforcement officers and mobilizes troops. Listen to this. Juan Espinoza Martinez, 37, had recently offered 10 grand in a Snapchat message for the killing of an unnamed senior Border Patrol officer. And guys, I'm just going to call it right now.
The officer's been named now. CWB Chicago is saying that it was a hit on Commander Gregory Bovino. That's actually, I put it in the.
So look at this. This guy. Okay, here, and they have more in the actual document. This guy was a member of the Latin Kings.
Yep.
This is a member of the Latin Kings, and I'm going to tell you right now, this sounds like a cartel hit.
Mm-hmm.
This sounds like a cartel hit. They're working with the Latin Kings, and some agent that knew too much and was in their way, and now they're look at this. They have a Cash App account. Well, I probably shouldn't even post all that stuff.
Yeah,
they're putting all this out. They're putting all this out in the charging document. Look at this. 2K on info. Cuando Lagaren, 10K if you take him down. LK on him. The Latin Kings, right there.
Wow.
Look at that. That's crime in America today. This Morgan, you're talking about running for Congress or for Senate to be in the U.S. Congress. This is what's going on in parts of the United States right now.
People have no idea. They have no idea how large these forces are, how much money they have, how much money these cartels have to fight back. I mean, the amount of money that they have is, bigger than any European military. So we have to be really careful, and we have to have our head on a swivel about things like this. I'm glad they're on it, but terrifying.
Where do you come down? So President Trump, he is federalizing the National Guard, though he's doing so under the auspices of protecting the federal facilities. Now, if President Trump invokes in the Insurrection Act, let's take it back to there. That means they can actually go out into the city and put down.
That's
of
right.
course, and this is Title 10, black letter law. It predates the Civil War because the Insurrection Act is 1807. It was passed in the wake of the Whiskey Rebellion to say that the federal government can federalize the state militias if there is a case of a rebellion, and this obviously was something that George Washington himself participated in, putting down a rebellion. So it is not some new law or new tradition or something that Trump made up. It goes all the way back to our very first president, the founder of our country. At what point does it cross that line?
Well, we're getting really close to your point. I mean, the left projects. All the time. They project on us, oh, you're fascist. But they're the ones using the tools of government to harass conservatives. They say that, and you just saw it, civil war. The right wants civil war. Well, I think they're projecting there. And that, you got to pay attention. When somebody tells you who they are, believe them.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree. All they can do is project. They're constantly accusing you of what they're trying to do. Right. And when they accuse people of fascism, it's kind of funny because people think that what fascism means is right-wing authoritarianism. Fascism, by definition, takes on a different character based on what people are being, quote-unquote, represented by that fascist system. But the core philosophy or the core belief of fascism is that the state exists above all. Like, this is what Giovanni Gentile and Benito Mussolini actually wrote. This is how the people who defined fascism, who created the ideology, actually referred to it, actually described it. It's the belief that the state exists above all, is the highest moral authority, and can change what your rights are at any moment. Now, who believes that in the United States of America? Let's be serious about this. Mm-hmm. It's the people who are always accusing everybody else of being fascist. And this is not, I understand that it's cringe to a certain degree to go like, well, the left are the real fascists, the left are the real racists, because we're using their language. But the truth is, if you look at the actual definition of fascism, instead of thinking fascism just means when right-wingers make rules or when the law is enforced, you find that leftism and fascism share that similar thread in common.
So to your initial point, right? So they blame everything. They blame the people. They blame everyone else for doing what they actually do. It's called DARVO. It's deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender. Yeah. That's a typical standard
playbook.
It's right out of like the Saul Alinsky playbook. It is very standard on the left. And to your point, Seamus, about, the fascism stuff. I disagree that they are fascists in that they aren't nationalists, and that's
fair.
That's a key component of fascists. But they are every bit as authoritarian as they accuse they accuse the right of being. And to be honest with you, like the accusations that they level at the right, I'm getting to the point where I kind of want the right to be a little more authoritarian, to be a little more assertive, because things like you've got judges and DAs that will allow that when the police if the police arrest these people, they don't prosecute, they won't put these people in jail, they allow them back on the street, even up to and including people that attack law enforcement. They will assert that they've done nothing. We're just here as peaceful protesters, but everyone knows that the phrase peaceful protester has been a meme since 2020. Peaceful protester as they're punching people.
Well, and here's what happened. So perfect example of this was in Chicago this weekend that I know everyone's seen the news, but just think about this. There were ICE agents that were boxed in by 10 cars.
Yep.
This is a military operation, all right? You were in Afghanistan, right? Did 10 cars just show up by accident to box in a group of troops? No. That is an operation. By the way, this is exactly how. By the way, you should know this. If you're in Afghanistan, if you get a bunch of guys boxed in by cars, what's usually the next thing that happens?
You die.
Yeah, you get a VBID, right? So a vehicle-borne IED. That is the classic scenario. I know a bunch of guys who came back from Afghanistan, and they don't even like. Being in traffic jams.
Oh no, I know. Listen,
traffic jams.
9 months after I got
up.
back, going to the mall, I would worry about. I will never, and to this day, I will not pull up right on the bumper of the car in front of me. You always leave an exit.
Yep.
But it's what you were saying earlier. I think is so important about the word and words and how words matter. As a Christian, my Bible starts off in the beginning was the Word. Could have started off in the beginning was light, or in the beginning was space, or in the beginning was God. But it started off the beginning as the Word, because words are so powerful. And if you believe in a higher authority, then you believe in the power of words. And this thread of our culture has lost the word, and they believe that human beings are the ultimate authority. Our government is the ultimate authority, and that's why words are so fluid on the left. They don't mean anything. What is a woman? They don't know. They won't put a fence around it.
Yeah. The fact that they will use words in a way to just assert power. That's a really difficult thing for the average person to wrap their head around, because one of the blind spots that liberalism, and when I say liberalism, I mean like a liberal democracy like our Republican form of government, where we have a Republican form of government, but our society is a very liberal, focused on liberty, focused on the individual. But one of the things that liberalism has kind of a blind spot or is vulnerable to is people that approach the good-hearted and honest debate without the same scruples, right? If you're going to come to a debate and you don't intend on being honest, and you don't intend on having a charitable conversation, and all you're going to do is use the most hyperbolic way to engage that you can, and just assert that your enemies are evil, and you assert that their motivations are bad. The people that want to engage in dialogue are generally at a loss, and it makes it really difficult for people for normal people that aren't schooled in that, people that don't understand how people the left will operate.
That's exactly why John Adams said our country was built for a moral and religious people.
100%.
Exactly.
To go back to what Jack was saying about, you were saying this is the beginning of the overthrow of our government. Those seeds, I think, were planted 60s and 70s.
I don't know if it's. I don't know if they're going to overthrow. To be fair, they want to overthrow our government.
Well, let's just say overthrow our society.
But that's what they want. In this instance, what I just want to limit it to this: that when you're looking at Portland, you're looking at Chicago, which are sort of the pivot point cities. They're the key cities in their respective states, Oregon, Illinois. There's tons of parts of Illinois and Oregon that are not in rebellion. But with these cities being in open rebellion, they are testing whether or not the federal government will have the resolve to do to be able to enforce the law here.
Right. And I think those seeds were planted in probably the 60s and 70s in colleges that teach the
100%, sure.
postmodernism,
Yes.
that teach the deconstruction. We had the Weather Underground people who were felons, killing people, making bombs. They were Marxists. They went to prison. They were pardoned by leftists, liberals. Cuomo did it. Clinton did it. They went into colleges and started teaching.
And
They're insane.
there are no movies about the Weather Underground. There you do not see 2,500 bombings the United States saw between 1970 and like midway through 1972. So don't tell me, and you can talk to people who are like, I was live in the 70s. That never happened. Yeah, because you've never seen it in Hollywood.
I know. Well, this is one of those hilarious things that every now and again, and listen, I'm not trying to put everyone in a generation in the same box. My parents are boomers. They're wonderful people. They're incredibly based. But it was just the fact that that generation was particularly consumed by media and by television. And I think part of the reason that we're not is because we've gotten more skeptical of what we've been told by the pundits and the folks on TV. But I will say this. When somebody points, I saw this. Somebody pointed out, like, well, the Weather Underground was setting off bombs and they were extremely violent, but like no one talks about it and no one knew about it because it wasn't on TV. And every now and again, you'll see some older guy commenting like, "No, I was there and it didn't happen." You're making their point. No, I know that you're making their point. But here's the thing. Listen,
I mean, on X, I was doing that.
Yeah, like my parents and I guess it depends on what background you're from, because they knew that. They knew that hippies were no good. They knew like there were boomers who were based. But this is can I say one thing actually? This is, I asked my dad this. I remember when I was like 12. I was like, Dad, and pardon my French, but I just got to quote the man accurately. I was like, Dad, he was born in the early 50s. So I was like, in the 60s, did you know any hippies? And my dad, he's a South Sider, he's from Chicago. He's like, we knew one hippie. Everyone thought he was an asshole.
Exactly.
He's like, in movies, they have you think everyone was a hippie. No one liked those guys.
There is empirical data. There is empirical data to show that this did have an effect at the time that is kind of misremembered or just totally overlooked by other things. And I'll tell you what happened. Because, okay, what were the years that I just said? 1970 to 1972. Well, was there something that happened nationally in 1972? Oh, there was a presidential election. That's right.
Yeah.
And does anyone remember? Let's put our poli-sci hats here. Who won the presidential election in 1972? Richard Milhouse Nixon. And how many states did he win? It was 49 out of 50 states in that election. So the idea that the 70s were, it was all about the counterculture, it was all about change. Really? No, it sounds like it was people like Seamus's dad sitting there going, hey, we need to do something about these crazy hippies. Let's put Nixon in there. Exactly. And then Watergate happens 2 years later, totally overshadows everything that people were fighting against in 68. So I remember Nixon wins in 68 and then wins in 72, campaigning on what? Cleaning up the streets. And by the way, ending the war in Vietnam. So that's what he ran on. And this idea that, and by the way, I do believe that Watergate itself will be exposed one day, and we'll get the truth about how he was totally set up by the FBI.
Nixon redemption arc?
Nixon redemption arc. I'm all in.
Why does he need to be redeemed?
All in. Based.
Well, what happened today makes Watergate look like a parking ticket.
Well, exactly. And we'll get to that in a minute. We'll get to that in a minute because we've got some, and more spying coming up. But I want to hit a couple more pieces on this before we do get to the next story. But it does just goes to show you that even though we haven't done any movies on this, and certainly, by the way, Seamus, do you have any Freedom Tunes on the Weather Underground?
We actually haven't done a Freedom Tunes. I'm part of the problem.
Oh my gosh!
Listen, I make fun of the lefties that are around today. I have made fun of boomers.
And how many episodes have you done of that?
We on Freedom Tunes, we have like over 600 videos that we've done.
600 videos and not a single one. Not a single one.
Can I just connect one of those scenes to how?
Maybe we'll bring them up in Twisted Plots. Maybe I'll have to bring up the Weather Underground and Twisted.
In 2020, so Susan Rosenberg was pardoned by Clinton, right, on his last day in office, I believe.
Yes, that's right.
She became a professor. And then around 2020, she was part of Thousand Currents, right, which helped Act Blue with their money during the riot and all the let's get the arsonists bailed out. So there's a direct line between those domestic Marxist terrorists to the Black Lives Matter domestic Marxist terrorists.
Well, and who were... so Bill Ayers and Bernadine Dorn ended up raising the son of, I can't remember her first name, Boudin was the last name.
Yes, Boudin.
Well, I can't remember his mom's name.
Oh, my bad. Sorry.
And so they ended up raising the son of another pair of members of the Weather Underground who did go to jail for, I believe, killing a security guard when they were conducting a bank robbery. And his name was Chesapeake, and he became the George Soros DA of San Francisco.
True. It's true.
Who actually got thrown out because he was so crazy and he just stopped prosecuting crime. So again, all of the stuff that we live with, see, Seamus has to go a step past. The liberals that we live with now are the next generation of the Weather Undergrounds.
They are.
Yeah.
It's true. No, I don't disagree with you. Listen, and I've done videos, not necessarily on the Weather Underground. Sorry, what's wrong with me? But I've done videos on what was happening in the 60s and even prior. You look at Alfred Kinsey and his whole series of perversions and the fact
Guys, why is Seamus so lazy? Like, why doesn't he?
He's like backpedaling
He's
now.
like asking for $500,000. He can't even make a 30-second clip about the Weather Underground.
This is
Just
what
undid your whole oeuvre.
I was specifically,
did.
I was specifically asked to do it, and I said no because I like the Weather Underground. No, but in all seriousness, hey, maybe the Weather Underground is going to have to come up in an episode of Twisted Plots. Maybe we'll figure that out.
It's worth pointing out in the 60s, there were a lot of people, the average person thinks that all of the hippies were anti-war and stuff. And to be honest with you, like there was a small portion that were anti-war, but they were anti-Vietnam War, not because they're against exercising power,
right.
but because they were on the side of the communists.
That's literally
They
it.
were on the side of the Viet Cong. They thought that the United States was an imperial force and that it was evil and that the communists were the actual good guys. That's why Jane Fonda went to North Vietnam and did all the, took all the pictures that she did and basically was giving aid and comfort to the enemy. It was because they thought the U.S. was on the wrong side. It's not that they were against war. It's they were against the United States and they were communists, so they were ideologically aligned with the North.
And Shane, do you know the Star Wars tie-in there? Do you know it, Seamus?
The Star Wars tie-in?
Star Wars tie-in to what he said, what Phil's saying.
I don't know that piece of history
okay,
either.
so this is so the original draft of Star Wars, which would become the first movie with Lucas's script, which is totally thrown out by Fox, by 20th Century Fox, was the rebels were based on the Viet Cong. And the Empire was based on the United States and France. And obviously he drew on a lot of trappings from like Dune and stole a lot of Frank Herbert's iconography, but that's what he wanted it to be, and he wanted it to be this story where the rebels literally were that. And so if you actually watch, it doesn't happen in the first Star Wars movie, but in the third movie, in Return of the Jedi, you can really see, like some of those scenes when they're on
Endor.
Oh gosh, Endor, thank you. When they're on Endor, it kind of seems like a Vietnam style movie, and that's why.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, George Lucas didn't actually write Star Wars, but that's another piece.
Well,
That was his script.
Star Wars was already ruined, so Jack just adding that little bit of extra.
Commie from the start. But look, we do have, all right, before we go off, I know I keep saying we're going to. I'm just going to say it. I think if President Trump were to invoke the Insurrection Act for these specific cases and for this specific enforcement power, I think America would be behind him. The same way that the same country that voted for Nixon in 68 and 72, the same people who can see the abject violence out there, I think America would be for it. I totally do.
I thought it should have happened in 2020.
I agree.
When the cities were completely overwhelmed by satanic
What do you guys
terrorists.
think?
So I tend to agree, but with one caveat. I think that most Americans would support it. The problem is we've got between 50 and 100 million people here. I mean, yes, they say there's only 20 million illegals after they just left the border wide open for decades and never increased the number of illegals that were here in the statistics since the early 2000s. It's just always been the same number.
Well, and what are those networks doing? They're putting hits on Border Patrol agents.
Exactly.
Right,
So I agree with you.
This is
that Americans would support it, but a quarter of the people in the country wouldn't.
By the way, I believe if you go back to Title 10, if you go back to the actual Insurrection Act, we're not talking about just insurrection. That's foreign invasion. You've got foreign invaders on your soil. If you can put the tie, and by the way, I'm sure it's not going to take a lot to tie the Latin Kings to the cartels.
Yeah.
That because we keep pointing this out, that the street violence that's going on in all of these cities, the gangs are getting the fentanyl from the cartels. These are foreign linked. It's right there. And so black letter law, the president has complete authority and has had so since the day he put his hand on the Bible to invoke this act to stop what's going on in their cities. And if we get to the point where there are foreign-based organizations that are putting out hits on the Border Patrol, then look, a limited, a limited, partial 2% invocation of the Insurrection Act would be absolutely warranted. And Mr. President, we would support you.
Well, we did that. We did that in Washington, D.C.
Well, so in D.C.,
Right,
it's a little different, though, because
D.C.
it's a district. It's not a state.
Technically, the Secretary of the
Yes.
Army is the governor of D.C. when it comes down to it. But so it's a different case, but it is, I think, a show of how many people would support Trump if he did that and if he put down these crazy riots in a lot of these cities.
Look, I was in D.C. when
Look
he
how
did
cleaned
that,
up it is.
and even in 2020 when he was able to do that, and then again this year, and I remember in 2020 in the riots, and we would have these buses of federal agents and National Guard just coming in, and then you'd see the guys come off, and they're all kitted up, and I'm just sitting there like,
Yeah,
let's go.
go.
Let's clean up the streets. And you see it now with Washington D.C., where it's been totally fine.
Muriel
No
Bowser has
incidents.
come out in support.
Bowser's for
Right.
it.
Like
So-
DC's 93.5% Democrat and the other 6.5% is communist. So for the fact that that city has been supportive of the National Guard there tells me that the rest of the country, I believe, would be too.
That's because they really do live with the results of having a police department and a judicial system that doesn't put people in prison, doesn't actually take the criminals off the street. And this is something we've talked about before on the show. Most areas that have a crime problem, if you arrest 1,000, 1,500 people, the crime problem goes away because the police know the same people are committing the crimes over and over and over and over.
It's not even that many people. Let me tell you, my hometown, Birmingham, Alabama, 2 miles from where my house is, there was a mass shooting last year. 18 people got shot. The guy that did it, 22-year-old kid, allegedly did it, was responsible for 30% of the murders in Birmingham, Alabama, a city of 1 million people that year. 30%, one guy.
So that I mean, I completely believe you, and that only makes my point. You don't have to actually violate a bunch of people's rights and do all this large operation stuff. You need to get the handful of people that are extremely violent and you put them in jail for until they're 50. Right. So that way they're no longer all young and full of vim and vigor and want to go out and get weird. Right. Put them in jail until they're old men. And then the whole population is better for it. And that's all that really needs to happen. And that's something that
DC.
Yeah, that's something that has happened historically.
So as crazy as this is, we have some more. We have some more craziness going on because we say, all right, we're just going to get the laws enforced. That's what we all want. We just want the laws enforced. We want the rules enforced. But our second story tonight, we have more text messages from Virginia Attorney General candidate Jay Jones. Now, you may have seen over the weekend, or if you didn't, that this guy, Jay Jones, got into a little bit of trouble for text messages that he put out that he sent in 2022. They just came out in the wake of him running, where he sent text messages to a GOP House delegate, a woman, talking about, and my gosh, I actually can't even read this on air, so I'm not going to read it, but he talked about specific killings of other and in graphic detail, and referred to his opponents as, he said Gilbert was the guy's name, and then he said Gilbert, Hitler, and Pol Pot. Gilbert gets to the head. I'm reading his comments, by the way. Put him in the crew with the 2 worst people you know, and he receives 2 every time. He then, after the woman, listen to this. This is how horrific this guy is. After she asked him to stop texting her that stuff, he then reportedly called her and suggested that he wished his wife could watch her own child die in her arms so that he might reconsider his political views. This is a guy who's running for AG in Virginia. Now, he's been endorsed by all the Democrats. None of them have rescinded their endorsements. Joe Scarborough, though, I'll give him credit on this. He has called for him to withdraw. He has called for him to drop out of the race. So, all right, he's done that. But now there are more text messages that came out. So those came out over the weekend. Now there's more text messages that came out. Talking about police officers. The Virginia AG candidate, Jay Jones, said if more cops got killed, they wouldn't shoot so many people.
Firstly,
according to a lawmaker.
oh my gosh, that's insane. Firstly, it is literally the exact opposite, by the way. Like, aside from how hideous that statement is, the reason police officers fear for their lives is because there's a legitimate threat and they are being killed. But secondly, this is twisted beyond normal wrath. There's something deeply psychologically wrong with this person. This guy's a gross little creep. I wouldn't trust him with a butter knife. How could he have an elected position in the United States?
Gilbert and his wife should have to watch their fascist children die in their arms.
That's sick. That's really sick.
It really is a sickness. It's not just he doesn't actually care. And this is what I wrote my book about this, my anti-communist book. I said they actually aren't interested in justice or equality or any of these things. This is what they want. They actually do have this desire to see their opponents killed and their families killed. And look, I'm going to say it. If you thought that I was being that I was talking a little bit too much, go look at the reaction to Charlie Kirk's murder. Go look at the way people celebrate, and they say, "Well, what about right-wing violence?" I say, nobody on the right celebrates violence like this. Nobody.
That's
never happened.
Yeah, that's an argument that I make. That people like to go ahead and do the whataboutism. I had a little rant the other day about people talking about Paul Pelosi. Nobody on the right was saying it's good that Paul Pelosi was attacked. I'm glad he was attacked. He was saying things that I really hate, and I want to see whoever is whatever next person in line. They didn't celebrate it. They did laugh at the circumstances. They made jokes about the fact that he was in his underwear. There was a bunch of rumors going around about the context and the situation, but they weren't celebrating. They weren't doing the same thing that the left did. When the left found out or saw the video of Charlie getting killed, they were instantly celebrating. They were saying, thank goodness, thank God, blah, blah, blah. Yep. We're happy about this. We want to see more of this. And they started releasing lists of other people that they thought that should be next. Present company included, people like Tim.
Demons self-identified.
Yeah,
that's right.
And so this idea that the left and the right are comparable, it is absolutely fallacious. It is absolutely not true. The left has been an openly terrorist organization, at least if you want to be charitable, at least since 2020, when they were rioting and burning down cities over what was basically a lie. And also they have been using government, as in local district attorneys and local police departments and local judges, to allow criminals to remain free, and basically allowing these people to terrorize normal, good, hardworking Americans.
Morgan,
the silence from the left
do?
right now is truly shocking. That if you don't condemn it, you condone it. They're not condemning that. I'll tell you, I had not been announced for Senate for 24 hours before people started calling me fascist online. Mm-hmm. My 10-year-old nephew said to my sister, I don't want Uncle Morgan to run for Senate because I don't want him to be killed. He had seen the Charlie Kirk news. And that has affected a whole generation of people. It's chilling them out of public service. People don't want to go into public service. People say to me all the time, I can't believe you're doing this. I can't believe you're exposing yourself to it. But I never thought I'd expose my son or my family to this kind of rhetoric, this kind of planned violence. Criminals, they imagine the violence before they commit it. That's what's so frightening about his words.
That's it. No, that's absolutely right. And people try to pretend that there's this separation. Things don't happen in the world that didn't first happen in the human heart.
That's right.
People will fixate on something and then they will eventually do it. And when it comes to left-wing fantasies of harming children, whether of this variety or others, we're told by certain left-wing activists, firstly, tacitly by the people who are silent about this, but also about others who will try to argue that, oh, well, somebody thinking about something doesn't mean they're going to really go do it in real life. If someone's an alcoholic, do you give them the advice that they should think about drinking all day because that's going to be a good outlet to get them to stop drinking? Obviously not. The reason they say it's okay for people to quote unquote muse, which is the word one article used to describe this man fantasizing about these children dying. The reason that they say that it's okay for these people to muse about this is because, of course, they know what we know, that thoughts lead to actions, and they want it to happen. They want that to happen.
Guard your thoughts. Was thoughts become words, and words become actions, and actions become destiny and your character.
There are people that are on the supposedly moderate left that have said things like, there's a streamer named Destiny that said things like, look, we want to see conservatives afraid of dying if they go out and promote their political opinions.
Run for office.
So that way they will petition their leaders to tell them to turn the rhetoric down, to turn the temperature down, which is, on its face, that's a dumb thing, right? We're going to endorse terrorism because terrorism works. That's exactly what he's saying. We want these people to be terrorized, so that way they will tell their leaders that people like Donald Trump that they should not, they should do things to turn down the temperature. We'll turn the temperature up in order to get them to turn down the temperature, which is historically a massively counterproductive effort. Right? People don't respond to terrorism by saying, especially on the levels that would be thought possible in the United States, right? You're not going to get a massive terrorist attack or you're not going to get massive amounts of terrorism out of the left nowadays. And if you did, I mean, look what happened in 9/11. Like we mobilized the entire country to respond to a terrorist attack that killed 3,000 people. Like, the idea that terrorism is going to produce the right, was going to cow the right and make the right say, no, we should tell our leaders to turn down the temperature. That is an objectively stupid thing to think on its face. That never happens. Historically, that never happens. But this is something that the people on the left, and again, this guy's supposedly a moderate, on the moderate left. He's not what you would consider a communist. He's not what you would consider a socialist. He talks about he believes in capitalism ostensibly and stuff, but he says things like this. And that's something that you get on the left broadly nowadays, which is why you saw people celebrating.
And where are the calls for Jay Jones to tone down the rhetoric?
Yeah, exactly.
Where are the calls for a Democrat member, a guy who's running for, on AG on a major party ticket? He's the running mate of Abigail Spanberger. You have not heard anyone. Now, I will say MSNBC's called it, all right? But you don't hear, I'm not getting hit up by reporters saying, when are we going to, Manu Raju isn't running around Capitol Hill saying, well, are you going to tone down the rhetoric? Are you going to disavow? Are you going to disavow? Where is it? Where is this? Because when my friend was murdered, all right, 3 weeks ago, and the very first thing I heard was, are you guys going to tone down the rhetoric? I'm like, I haven't even said anything. I haven't even said a word.
It's disgusting.
Well, aren't you guys going to tone down the rhetoric? I said, well, first of all, my friend's in a box. There are bullets flying. One of them hit him, and there's bullets flying at ICE agents. And the media's first response is to ask the right to tone down rhetoric when we're the ones who are catching bullets all of a sudden.
They literally said, will this terrorist attack work? That's what they're saying.
Yeah, you're right.
They're projecting.
That's right.
They're always projecting, like we were saying earlier. And some people have told me it only exists on the fringes of the left. And I'm like, I think we're experiencing sustained, widespread political bloodlust across the whole base. I was in New York when Butler happened.
Yeah.
And I was at like a family function. Some old friends will say, this one in particular, ex-friend, said, too bad Trump didn't get it, right? My mother-in-law was in Manhattan when Charlie was executed. And she found out because someone said, thank God, on the street, on the sidewalk. These people feel open to be that bloodthirsty. And these people aren't talking out against it because they all kind of feel that way. It's not like this guy, it's not unique to him. They all feel this. It's their last resort is violence.
And I think there's far too many. We saw the celebration of the death of Charlie Kirk. Is Jay Jones in elected office now? Is he?
No, he's running.
No, but I mean, is he like a state, state delegate? Because they said he was in the state delegation. attorneys. He's a former member of the House of Delegates from.
Dude, what a creep.
2018
I
to
can't even look at his
2021.
face. I can't even look at his face.
So he had just gotten out.
Creep.
He had just gotten out of
Disgusting.
the Virginia House of Delegates when he sent these messages, and apparently he was sending it to a friend that thought would share, that he would, perhaps share her beliefs, and then he starts calling her and berating her.
But this speaks to what you were just saying, Shane. Why would he think that someone else would be open to hearing that? Probably because a lot of people on his side of the political aisle have been. He was probably surprised by the fact that someone was upset by it.
Look, you see these people in D.C. Morgan, you've been to D.C., you know how it's like. I'll never forget, by the way, of all the text messages, and this will line up to our next story, of all the text messages between Lisa Page and Peter Strzok, the one that always stands out with me is the one that talks about how all of D.C. just looks down on Middle America and just hates Middle America. And they said you can smell the Walmart on Trump supporters. Yeah. You can smell the Walmart on them. And that is that elitist bubble in which all these people live, that they think we are better, we are the anointed ones, we are the best, and all you hicks, all you inbred, gullible losers stuck
Clinging
in
to
the middle of the country.
your
The
Bible,
bitter clingers that Barack Obama said.
The great unifier, Barack Obama, all of his memorable quotes were just nasty, horrible things he said, but he wasn't as funny when he said them as Trump was. It just kind of came off as bitchy and sad.
And
look at the timeline of the invective, though. Look at where we started under Barack Obama and where we are now. Right? We've gone from clinging to their guns and their Bibles, and then we got into their fascists and their authoritarians, and now they're just simply let's just kill them.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's what happens when you say literally Hitler for 8 years.
And you say it over and over and over. So as horrific as that is, unfortunately, that's where we're at, where not only are we seeing the violence, not only are we seeing the open rebellion, we're also seeing these statements being made by a major party candidate for an extremely powerful office, by the way, and no pushback from his own party. But let's talk about what they do when they actually do get into power. And then, of course, they lie about it so much that we can barely find out information. In our next story 3 here, breaking, and this was really just breaking as soon as we came into the show tonight. So we haven't all had a huge chance to get into it, but I think we'll understand it because, unfortunately, it's something we've been talking about for a long time now. Biden's FBI was spying on Republican senators under the Arctic frost investigation. Senator Grassley has come out and put out this information. I believe there's a statement now as well from Dan Bongino. And Senator Grassley put this out, released a document on X showing the FBI conducted surveillance on 8 Republican senators, part of an investigation called Arctic Frost. Now, this is the same investigation that targeted our organization, TPUSA, in the wake of January 6th. Grassley wrote, "This document shows the FBI spied on 8 of my Republican Senate colleagues during the Arctic Frost investigation into, quote, election conspiracy. Arctic Frost later became Jack Smith's elector case against Trump. Biden FBI weaponization equals worse than Watergate." This is what Morgan was referring to earlier. And let's go down the list. So an FBI special agent conducted a preliminary toll analysis on limited toll records associated with the following U.S. senators. So they're talking about specific phones in this case. Senator Mike Kelly, Senator Lindsey Graham, Bill Hagerty, Josh Hawley, Dan Sullivan, Tommy Tuberville, Ron Johnson, Cynthia Loomis, and Marsha Blackburn. Morgan, you worked for Senator Tuberville. What's going on here?
I was there during this period. I mean, they're flat out trying to stop people.
So under the 2-hop rule, your phone was probably hit.
For sure,
caught up in this as well.
Absolutely, it was absolutely caught up in it. They hated him. They hated the blob, as I call it in Washington, and it is the uniparty blob. Cannot stand people like Tommy Tuberville because they can't control him and because he's off script, and they cannot stand that, and so that's why they went after him. And it's disgusting to me to see our own government going after elected officials. He holds the election certificate. He was elected by 6.5 million people in the state of Alabama to represent them in the halls of Congress, in the U.S. Senate. And here they're spying on him. What are they trying to get exactly?
Power. This reminds me of COINTELPRO, right? I mean, the government spied on different organizations, obviously ones I don't agree with, but still they spied on them, and that led to assassinations. And that was a horrible thing.
You're using the apparatus of government at the highest level, at the FBI, at the CIA, at the IRS, at all of the three-letter agencies to harass and dig dirt on Republicans. It just cuts one way.
It's worth noting that just about an hour ago, Senate Majority Leader Thune mentioned, he tweeted, he said, "I have grave concerns about a new report showing that the Biden-era FBI spied on Republican senators, and I fully support Senate committees getting to the bottom of this outrageous abuse of power and weaponization of the government." That was also retweeted by Harmeet Dillon, the Assistant Attorney General. So it is a positive step, or at least I think that it's a positive step, that a lot of the people in D.C., people in the DOJ and in the Senate, they're paying attention to this, and it looks like this isn't going to be something that just gets swept.
We have got to root them out.
Absolutely.
We have got to root them out.
Yeah.
And we don't have a lot of time to do it. We're going to
Patel,
lose the country if we do not root this kind of corruption out of our government.
Kash Patel was also tweeting about it as well. So, like I said, it's obviously not a guarantee that something's going to be done, but at least the right people are aware of it and making it known. So I do look forward to some kind of hearings on Capitol Hill, and I mean, there should be an investigation by the DOJ. They
has
should
to be ordered by the president. The president's, and I believe he's going to do it. I believe he's going to. I work for Kash Patel, and that's a guy that's not going to back down. He's going to chase it out. But we've got to support them because they have declared war on us, and they've said very clearly what they want to do. The Democrats have said, we're going to pack the Supreme Court. We're going to get rid of the filibuster. We're going to make D.C. and Puerto Rico a state. We're going to stuff the Senate. We're going to, write law from the Oval Office and never mind Congress. And then we're going to use all of the tools of government so that you never win an election again.
So this is why I keep saying to all those people that come out there and say, well, hold on, guys, if we do something, what's to stop the left from using it against us? What's to stop I say, guys,
they're using it.
Just look, what did they get? They had 4 years. They had 4 years of power, and what did they do with it?
What have they not used?
They were using it to round up patriots, 1,600 of them after Jan 6. They didn't care if you were throwing punches or just walking around peacefully or praying on the steps of the Capitol. You didn't even have to go to the Capitol. Some of the Jan 6ers were arrested who hadn't even gone to the Capitol complex. And then what did they do? They went a step further. Who did they launch investigations into? Charlie Kirk, Turning Point USA, as well as 92 other Republican groups and individuals were placed under scrutiny. I'm sure, probably like all of us in the room. And now we're finding that in Arctic Frost, this massive sweeping operation included 8 sitting U.S. senators. This is like when East Germany fell. And the Stasi records became, do you guys know about this?
Yeah.
That when the Stasi records became available for public view, you could go to the East German secret police headquarters and request to see your file. And if you ever go watch this movie, massive shout out. You absolutely have to see it. It's called The Lives of Others. I watch it every couple of years. The Lives of Others is the greatest movie on communism that has ever been made. And it is told through the eyes of a German secret police agent as he's conducting surveillance on this guy who's a playwright that he's worried is putting anti-communist messaging into his plays, and his girlfriend who is also like the leading lady in the plays, and the way that the party and the manipulation and everything that goes on, but it's all through us watching through little cameras and listening on the headphones the entire time. And at the very end, the guy goes to request his own file and then says, oh my gosh, all of these things that I thought were just random occurrences, it was all an intelligence operation that was being run against me, and these horrible things that were going on in my life. And it's obviously based on so many true stories, but this is what happens And we saw this during COVID. So let's go back a little bit. People say, where does this come from? And yeah, there's philosophy, and yes, it comes from the 60s. But I think there's something in human nature as well. And I want to ask you about this, Seamus. There's something in human nature, and we saw it come out during COVID, that people love having power over another. And you remember the snitches and the snitch lines in the UK and some states? Tim Walz was doing this. The snitch lines. Oh, I can't wait to snitch on my neighbor. What is that about human nature, Seamus?
So there's something about us as humans which is just constantly trying to drag us to hell. We do have a fallen nature. There is goodness in humans. There's good things about us, but there is a woundedness that we carry with us because of our first parents. And I believe it was Chesterton who said this, that original sin is the most controversial but best evidenced Christian belief. It's like, if you just look at the world and history and how it's operated, you're like, there's something wrong with these people, right? Yes. Everyone isn't like this, perfect person, as Rousseau would say that we are corrupted by society. The truth is, we like power. We're prideful creatures. We believe that we are God. We're constantly trying to make ourselves gods. There's a great quote from Fulton Sheen. He said, I'm going to butcher this, so forgive the paraphrasing, but he said, it now comes down to those who believe God became man and those who believe man will become God.
Yeah.
Charlie was a huge Fulton Sheen guy. Charlie and I were always sending. Charlie would tell me that he said, Jack, you know what I'm doing today? I said, what? He goes, I just got Fulton Sheen and he's on repeat. I've got the long
God
clips.
Bless him.
I've got the long clips on YouTube, and it just watching Fulton Sheen over and over and over. I said, man, there's a Catholic you could put on. He's #1 show in America, by the way, when he was on TV. #1 show. And you're right, there's something about the fallen nature. There's something about people wanting that power. They say pride was the first sin. And I think there's something when you see this and it gets unlocked when you give those types of people absolute power. And we saw it with Merrick Garland, we're seeing it with Jack Smith, and we saw it in East Germany. It's the same exact part of human nature that goes all the way down to even the very lower levels. And what did we see? What else did we see after Gen 6? We saw family members turning in their own relatives.
Yes.
They would say, go ahead.
Well, the idea of going no contact, that's something you hear from the left all the time, right? If you have a family member that is in somehow upsetting you and politically has an opinion that you don't like, they just stop, break off the connection. That's the kind of thing that cults do, right? Like, you should be able to reconcile or deal with the fact that your family is going to have different opinions to you, and it's perfectly fine to disagree because they're still family. The left behaves like a cult, and I don't want to get into the specific definition of cult and stuff like that. But when you have a group of people telling you that you should break off contact with your family because they disagree with you, they are not your friend because they will kick you to the curb the instant that you do something that they disagree with. Your family is probably not going to do that.
Dude, my grandma lived with me when she was dying of leukemia, and word got out that I didn't think J6 was so bad.
Oh my God!
And
you're an animal.
a family member had to come by and had this. I walked in on a secret little meeting he was having, a struggle session with my poor grandma, dying of leukemia, basically calling me an insurrectionist for not condemning J6 and thinking it was as bad as 9/11 or Pearl Harbor. It was wild.
Oh, listen, I was in the Secretary of Defense's office on J6, standing next to the Secretary of Defense, listening to the calls that came in, and I would tell people at home, like, yeah, Nancy Pelosi called in, and was she terrified? No. What did she want? She wanted a sandwich. She said she was hungry. She wanted the Department of Defense to deliver her food like we were Uber Eats. And liberal friends of mine are saying, you're making that up. Yeah. That's not true.
Same lady who got her hair done during COVID, right? In lockdowns.
Right.
Yeah. It adds up.
I don't know if he coined the term, but he might have. But John Doyle talks about a theater kid occupied government.
I've seen
this a few times. Yeah,
you can totally see that with these people. Like, I was there and I almost died. It was horrifying.
Do I need to break out? So when AOC claimed what she claimed on January 6th, I threw up a map break and I drew a map of where the Capitol is and how far away her office is from any of the things that were actually taking place. For example, you could be on the other side of the Capitol and not know that there was anything taking place that was untoward on the, I guess that would be the west side of the Capitol. If you're on the east side, you would have no idea. You have no idea whatsoever. And how do I know this? Because I was coming down Capitol Hill that morning, or I should say roughly around that afternoon. It started in the morning. We were watching Trump's speech. I was there with Raheem Kassam. We're coming down the hill. And, at first it's just, hey, it seems like there's a lot of guys in red hats over there. Yeah, I see. And then what did we see? A peaceful crowd. Now, they were on the steps, to be sure, but they were peaceful right up until the point where the Capitol Police threw flashbangs into the crowd. That is what set off the violence that day. It was the response to this, which was totally a break with the rules of engagement. There were no calls to disperse. There were no loudspeakers used. There was nothing like that. They threw flashbangs into a peaceful crowd, and I will always remember that because I saw it with my bare eyes.
But Jack, there were no federal agents at.
That's right.
Right.
Definitely not 275.
Well, this is the other thing. I remember we had just finished the summer of unhinged leftist rioting where billions of dollars in damage was caused and anywhere between 20 and 30 people died depending on the numbers you're looking at.
Billions.
And
Raised
yes,
for
billions.
BLM.
Exactly. Raised for BLM. Many homes were destroyed. Many businesses were destroyed. And what were we told? We were told, well, rioting is the language of the unheard.
Right.
And then on January 6th, they went, why these people are rioting? Because we're listening to them too much. We need to make sure. And so they said rioting's the language of the unheard when the left was rioting. And then when the right had like a riot that was instigated by feds, they went, well, the only way to stop this from happening further is to ensure that they're totally unheard forever. They banned them from every platform. They started throwing people in prison.
We put 25,000 troops at the Capitol.
Yeah.
To get into my office,
Remember
I had to
that.
go by 25,000 troops. By some context, there were 2,500 troops in Afghanistan. Nancy put 25,000 at
Oh
the
my
Capitol.
gosh. I'm
And it did
surprised
not
Biden
open
didn't leave the guns
building.
there.
It's a public building. The Capitol is a public building. You can go walk in it today. Anybody can go walk in the Capitol, and I suggest you do. It's a public building, and it was not opened back up until Republicans were back in charge of the House and Senate. It was shut down, and that's the way the left wanted it. They didn't want the smelly Walmart people coming to visit the Capitol, coming to visit their offices. They didn't want them in there, and J6 was a great excuse to keep them out.
To Seamus's point, again, what they said didn't have meaning. It was all about exercising power.
Right.
You can't call them hypocrites because they don't have principles in the first place. One of the things that I'm seeing a lot now is like when you're like, we have to worry about the fact that there are terrorists that want to terrorize Americans for their political beliefs. They want to use violence to get Americans to change their political beliefs, and then the left will say things like, "Oh, now you're not pro free speech. Now you're a hypocrite. Blah blah. You don't have principles." The fact of the matter is, this is another exercise of power, and it has nothing to do with what they believe because they don't believe in free speech. They don't believe in any of the things that they will assert, and we've seen it for the past decade. So when they go to, when they find conservatives or they assert that conservatives are hypocrites, ignore them. Ignore them. We have the House, the Senate, and the presidency, even if only slim margins. The government should be using every bit of legitimate power that it has to put the terrorist threat away. Put these people in jail. If they're making terroristic threats, if they're aiding terrorists, if they're engaging in violence against police, put them in jail for a long, long time. Every legitimate use of power that the government can engage in, they should be.
Phil, you're calling for justice.
I am. Absolutely.
What you mentioned about hypocrisy, I just want to point this out. The people who level accusations of hypocrisy the most tend to be those who don't actually believe in anything. Yeah. So it's really easy for them to say you're not living up to their beliefs because like their beliefs are I should get to do whatever I want all the time. It's like, well, you are very principled, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the morality is fixed to a weather vane. It's never
exactly.
one way. There's no center to it.
It's like it's easy to not be hypocritical when your perspective changes literally the second popular morality does.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't think that there is any legitimate argument that the left can possibly make against this, seeing as they've not only used every bit of legitimate government power, but it seems, if you go by what Chuck Grassley was saying, it seems that they've actually even gone and violated the law in an effort to keep their own political power. So I'm not worried about the things that the left accuses me of or anyone else on the right of. Those days are gone. Yeah. Now we're in a position.
It passed in like 2015.
They did.
They accused us of being racist and fascist and authoritarian and everything else. And eventually it's like the boy who cried wolf, right? Just tired. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And then they started mixing things up. They're like, they're Russians. We're like, what? You ran out of everything else and now we're Russians? Like, come on, dude. Go back to the lab and write better material.
It's ridiculous.
Well, Putin bootlicker.
Exactly.
So speaking of this, all right, we've got to get. So we're talking about pop culture. We're talking about,
oh boy,
all this, guys. I hate to have to do this, but we're doing it. We got to talk about Bad Bunny. We got to talk about Bad Bunny.
Why are you doing this to us?
Because I have a contractual obligation to
make us suffer.
Yes, actually, Tim. That was the one.
I knew it.
That was the one piece of advice that Tim said. Jack, just make sure you have them all in pain as much as possible. And so Bad Bunny, I guess, was on SNL, which is apparently some kind of television show, this weekend. And so Bad Bunny is this performer who is incredibly anti-ICE. He's been anti-U.S. government. He said that he will not perform in the United States while ICE is conducting operations. However, he's been tapped to be the Super Bowl halftime show because Jay-Z runs the entire Super Bowl halftime show, an exclusive contract that he has with the NFL, which is a product of the 2020 situation because of the George Floyd situation, BLM riots. They said, okay, we're going to sign over all of this to Jay-Z, the best friend of Barack Obama and Michelle Obama and Beyonce. And he now has full reign over the Super Bowl halftime show, I think until 2026 or maybe even 2029. And so why are they putting someone like Bad Bunny in? It's a corporate decision. Now, Tim and I talked about this the other night, but it's because Bad Bunny is the top streamed artist, but only among people who speak Spanish. So he's a very niche artist when it comes to the widespread United States market. But of course, they're trying to put him in everything they can. And how do I know this? They made the same guy, the caddy in Happy Gilmore 2, was also played by Bad Bunny.
Really?
The exact same guy. And I remember watching the movie and thinking,
it's a masterpiece, you thought.
You know what? There were parts of it that actually made me laugh. I'm not going to lie. There were. But no, it was very schlocky. But for some reason, they just randomly, Netflix has this corporate insertion. And of course, we know that the Obamas are also very close with Netflix, millions of dollars in that contract. Suddenly Bad Bunny shows up and has this just tons of screen time alongside Adam Sandler when no one's, heard of this guy if you speak English. And this has really come down to be the great, sort of discerning factor on Bad Bunny. So he mentions this as well on SNL. I'm going to play the clip here for you.
I'm very excited to be doing the Super Bowl, and I know that people all around the world who love my music are also happy, especialmente todos los latinos.
Those people are just anti-American.
Los latinos y las latinas en el mundo entero y aquí en los Estados Unidos, todas las personas que han trabajado para abrir puertas, más que un logro mío, más que un logro mío, es un logro de todos, demostrando que nuestra huella y nuestra aportación en este país nadie nunca la podrá sacar ni borrar.
Here, listen.
And if you didn't understand what I just said, you have 4 months to learn.
It'd be great if ICE came in and took him.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, no, he's Puerto Rican,
so he's an American.
Yeah,
I don't care.
But to take him anyway. Yeah, I know, right?
I'm extending the sentence. Spanish speaking.
And I want to just play another quick clip here. Whoopi Goldberg gets in on this as well.
Who shoots threatening to go up all the Taylor
to the Super Bowl
or Taylor Swift or any other white person?
Let me understand what you're saying because She's going to go to the Super Bowl and round up. How's she going to know who's who?
What?
Because the Supreme Court has given permission to question anyone who has a Spanish accent who has a dark skin.
Yeah. So here's
That's
the
why.
thing. Here's the thing. Everybody, get a little cocoa butter, sit in the
That's right.
sun. That's the first thing. and this is the only time you can probably ever do this. Give yourself a Latin accent.
You know, Whoopi, that is
And
such a
just
good
see.
idea.
Cultural appropriation.
And see
I love it.
if she can tell who's who.
So Whoopi Goldberg is saying that all the white people should go to the Super Bowl in brown face with a Latin accent to mess with ICE.
Okay.
All right. Let me point out what they're both doing here. They're being as divisive as possible on purpose. They're setting us up to, and this is what Pete Hegseth was talking about, and I was there for his speech yesterday. He said, diversity isn't our strength, unity is.
Yep.
I think that's so important because they're actively telling you, okay, if you speak English, if your skin is too pale, then there's something wrong with you. You need to change. You, American, who's been speaking English since America was founded, since 1776, there's something wrong with you. And we are correct. We are ascendant. Yeah. We are the ones who have the cultural identity, the cultural power, the cultural imperialism. So we are going to reverse cultural imperialize you. That's what they're doing with the Super Bowl. And this comes on the heels of course, what we already have the Black National Anthem, right? That is played, and we'll see if it's played at this Super Bowl. I believe it was played for the last couple of years now. And when you have these things, you know, and that go on at a massive cultural touchstone moment like the Super Bowl, which is supposed to bring us all together, right? You know, you can root for different teams, but we're all together in the sense that we're all American. Coach Tarbull, of course, knows a little something about competition and playing together, but also you maintain that we're all the same under the red, white, and blue, the stars and stripes. It is crap like this that they are trying to pit us all against each other. And you know, these guys talk about civil war, and it's like they keep throwing fuel on the fire. Turn down the rhetoric, and then you get stuff like this.
Yeah, look, it's just racism, first off, right? That's all that it is. I don't get into this conversation a whole lot because I don't like to sound like I'm trying to make myself or people like me a victim. But the point of this is just anti-white and anti-American, honestly.
Marxism.
Yeah, it is. But Marxism, this is the tool that they're using at this time because, you know, Marcuse said in One Dimensional Man, he said that the revolutionary energy is no longer with the working classes because capitalism delivers the goods. Right? He said that capitalism can provide not just the things that you need, but it provides a good life. So we have to look elsewhere for the revolutionary energy. And he said that, you know, you have to look to basically the minority populations, to Black, Latinos, you know, Black and brown people, as the left would say today. And so what this is actually fomenting is a way to induce a revolution. You know, you're right, it is Marxism. And the point is to separate us. The point is to awaken a critical racial consciousness. Now, everyone talked about the idea of critical race theory. The point of critical race theory is to awaken a critical racial consciousness, right? So get away from the idea of a melting pot and that we're all Americans.
Make it a salad bowl.
Yeah. So you want to see the things that make us different. Right. That's what the left wants to do. And then,
and by the way, you know what they'll say next? They will say, oh, well, every other performer, you know, I don't know if Shakira or whatever, you know, we've had English Super Bowl halftime shows this many times. So how many? And then they start counting it. Yeah. Right? Then they start counting it and quantifying it and see, you guys have had this many. We just want one. Yeah. We just want one.
Well,
because
you don't get any.
What they're actually doing.
You don't get any because this is America. Most Americans speak English. The United States Congress should pass a law that says that in the United States, English is our national language. And then the United States should stop making any kind of paperwork, anything in any other language. No more going to the DMV and deciding whether you want Spanish or Chinese or what have you language. You go to if you go to an official government bureaucracy, everything's in English.
I can think of another
I'll
place.
sponsor that bill.
I can
I
think
would
of
love
another
to see it.
place, not just the DMV, where we need only English.
Everywhere.
A very special place that we go every 4 years.
Yeah, to the ballot box.
Sometimes every 2 years, right? The ballot box.
Absolutely.
If you can't speak English or read in English, why are you voting?
And this shouldn't be. And the reason that we should do this is because context matters when you're trying to communicate. And if you don't speak the same language, you actually have a more difficult time understanding each other.
Oh my gosh, I know.
So it's perfectly fine for for people to speak other languages at home if they want. But when it comes to engaging engaging with the public in the United States, there should only be one language spoken. And it should be government mandated.
Could you imagine this happening in like Japan?
Yeah.
Well, they're
Spanish
trying. They're
halftime
actually.
show. Oh my gosh, they're so mad that Japan is for the Japanese.
Yeah.
That infuriates them.
They
like, why do they get an island?
They just elected the most right-wing prime minister they've had in ages. She doesn't believe that the emperor should be a female. She's very much in line with what Shinzo Abe was like. And I think it's a great thing. She believes that Japan should be for the Japanese. And I think that the world would lose a massive a treasure if Japan stopped being Japan. Like
Right,
I want
and why is it that we can say that for Japan, but you can't say that for the United States of America?
Because the U.S. is a place where people have come from Europe. There are countries that really, whether or not you agree about what the U.S. should be, the U.S. didn't. The people that were like the original, I guess, people that lived here. This place was colonized.
The settlers, the pioneers,
the settlers, and
the
pioneers.
settler spirit.
The U.S. is a belief system.
It's
What
perfectly fine,
unites
yes.
us is a belief system, not a race, not a religion. That's what sets us apart.
Yeah.
We could live in Japan all our lives and never be Japanese.
Exactly.
Right? We could live in France all our lives
I
and
speak
never be
Chinese.
French.
I speak Chinese. I spent 2 years there. Guess what? I ain't Chinese. I ain't gonna be
Never
Chinese.
gonna be Chinese.
Dude, there are
It's just
people who
not happening.
spend way more than 2 years in the United States and don't learn to speak English.
Exactly.
By the way,
I
have you
appreciate that you learned
seen any
Chinese
of
while you were
the?
there.
By the way, have you seen? I've yet to see one, and I keep saying this. When an ICE video that's come out of one of these raids where the guy is speaking, and Elad goes up and covers these. Show me one where the guy is speaking English. Show me one. And they're always like, "Oh, he's been here 20 years. He hasn't broken any laws. Let him stay." And they're not speaking English. They're actually not. You mentioned the salad bowl, right? It's they don't want to assimilate. They're not trying to be the melting pot. Whereas like when my family came over from Poland, the very first generation, they said, "Don't speak Polish. You're going to learn English." And you hear that with so many immigrant groups, and they'll say, "Did you ever speak Polish?" No, my grandparents never taught me Polish. Why? Because my mom and dad would say, "You're going to speak English, and we want you to assimilate." People, you have people, of course, a history of people changing names, a history of people, anglicizing things. They were coming from different parts of the world. Why? Because they want you to assimilate.
I was in Poland a month ago, by the way. Based place, man. It was they've kept.
Were you at the inauguration?
No, I was passing through on the way to Ukraine.
Oh, okay, no, I was. Oh, right, sure, down in Jezhov. So I was there for the inauguration, and then I went over through Ukraine with Secretary Besson on that trip.
Yeah, that was that the trip where they were on the train?
Oh, I was on the train the whole
I
time.
kept thinking the wheels were going to fall off of that thing. It's like a Soviet era train.
It's like a chicken train.
And I have never. I mean, it was 12 hours too from
each way.
Yeah, each way.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I can sleep through a lot, but that train, I really did think we were going to leave the tracks several times.
I remember sitting, and then you're in. There's that presidential car at the rear, and we were in there, and we go to see the secretary. And I'm with the Secretary of Treasury, and we're trying to get the mineral deal. This is back when the mineral deal was
like
going
March.
on. And that was the February actually.
Yeah.
And so I remember they said, "Oh, this is the same car that Joe Biden had when going over." And I said,
"Great, you sanitize it."
And I said, "Well, no." I said, and then I said, "Jake Sullivan was here." I said, "Really? Jake Sullivan was here?" I said, "Yeah." "What seat did he sit on?" They said, "I think Jake was in that seat." Sorry, I'm gonna sit over here.
Good. That was good.
I know. I said, "All right, guys. Look, we don't want to divide the country. We want the country to unite. Bad Bunny is being deliberately divisive. He's being overtly so. That's what Jay-Z's about. That's what Barack Obama has been about since the very first day that he began." Shane, do you have to run or are you good?
I'm about to run. I just want to say I'm calling on Jay-Z to have Gwar play.
Oh, gosh.
A halftime show.
No.
I think it'll be great.
Because you're like, forget offending half the country. Offend
Everybody.
all.
That's right.
We should do
Exactly.
everybody.
100%.
Equal opportunity.
Yes.
It'll be fun. Yeah, I'm going to run and get ready for my show. We'll be live at 10 o'clock on Rumble and YouTube, Inverted World Live. Hopefully, Joe Exotic calls in. We'll see what prison allows. He confirmed yesterday, but we'll see.
The Tiger King himself.
That's right.
Well,
That's right.
guys, while we're here, I want to get to some of these great super chats.
Love you, dude.
Because we have some
seeing you.
really, really good ones. There were a few that I wanted to get to early on because there were two in specific that, right here we go. All right. And Morgan, you may not know this as your first-time guest, but there is a tradition on Timcast IRL that we are going to uphold right now.
I'm ready.
This one comes in. As is tradition, please welcome our daughter, Lila Michelle, born Saturday at 4:05 p.m., headed to the NICU soon. So hope everything's okay there.
Yep.
Wish us well and pray for our family. So it's from Mike. We are praying for you and Lila and the whole family. We hope everything goes well. Hopefully the NICU is just a routine thing. You won't spend much time there. Get her home very, very soon.
Have more too.
And have more. And by the way, we have another one in the same vein. And Morgan, you're going to love this because this is from Tyler. He says, I'm messaging as I wait for the birth of my baby.
Wonderful.
Pray for baby Titus Gray as I wish to bring him up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Murphy, for your service to our state. So it must be
all right.
Alabama in there.
Congrats.
That is
awesome.
a wonderful thing to hear.
Yeah.
Oh, this is great.
Nurture and admonition of the Lord. That's a lovely phrase.
And so we've got it in. Let's see. Seamus, this is from Raymond G. Stanley.
Hey.
Seamus, since I started working here, part of my job has been to put things where they belong. We had to buy a full set of spoons, only spoons. Why?
I don't know. That's crazy. Maybe I can explore a concept like that on the new show I'm launching, Twisted Plots. It's going to be a fun animated anthology series. We're almost to 10% of our budget raised. If you guys want to go over to twistedplots.com and watch our 25-minute pilot.
Awesome.
Seamus, why are there so many spoon comments about you?
I don't know why people say these kinds of things. If I had $1 for every spoon comment, Twisted Plots would be funded by this point.
I know
like
why.
those little spoons like my great-grandmother did that, from each country you visit or city.
So, no, basically there was an ugly bit of
They're referring to you as Spoon Man. They're referring to you as Spoon Man.
There was an ugly bit of yellow journalism from one Tim Pool who lobbed a false accusation at me, and I won't even get into the xenophobic undertones, but he claimed that there was a person of Irish descent under his house who would steal spoons.
Muckraking journalism.
Yeah, which I personally found very offensive.
All right. I mean, there's so many. All right. Aren't you the guy who has a hoard of silver spoons under your house?
Some of us weren't born with one in our mouth. We had to go get them. Not that I did. I would never do that.
Welcome back,
know
Seamus.
me. I would never do something.
Welcome back.
Amazing. This one, here you go. Brother, I'm from Idaho. I know a potato when I see one. And then there's just a series of spoon emojis.
I come on this show and everyone just bullies me.
Yes.
I come here and everyone bullies me. Guys, I'm trying to get this show funded to build culture. Please be nice to me and go to twistedplots.com. Please donate. We're going to make something awesome.
We've got one from Bernie Katzori. And a lot of these are just comments, but I like this one. It says, we need a 3-hour episode of Pop Culture Crisis on the Weather Underground. There's a few channels who have covered them.
Wow.
More recent Okies weird stories. People are mentioning different books on the Weather Underground. But again, Seamus, there is yet to be any, actual like scripted media content depicting the Weather Underground.
I know I've been a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but the reality is part of why I'm trying to step into longer-form content is because the goal is eventually to start making films. We want to make TV shows, films. One problem is these conservative startups, they bite off more than they can chew. They go, we're going to make, they have no experience in film or television. They go, we're going to make 20 movies and 80 shows and all of this. It's like, we just want to make this one show, and then that's going to be our starting point to grow and tell more stories and shine light on these kinds of issues.
No,
if you believe in that vision, thank you. If you believe in that vision, go to twistedplots.com. We're almost to 10% of our budget. Let's get there tonight.
Let's see. No,
do it.
please go and support that because that's key. This is a
Thank you.
great comment that's
Thank
in.
you.
This is a thank you to Tim, but this is for, and I'm apologizing in advance for not knowing the right way to pronounce your name. I get that a lot myself. Posobiec, but we'll see. This is from Ryan Amacher. And he's saying, thank you, Tim, for showing my clip of a guy spitting on ice. So he's been out there covering. He's one of these field journalists, citizen journalists, who's been doing a great job of covering these events, this violence. Go follow him. I'll spell out the name RHEIN AMACHER. And I've been sharing his stuff as well. It's really, really good.
Can I just say,
Yeah.
one of the chats said Seamus looks like Bad Bunny, which I have no idea of where the resemblance is, but
If you wait,
Fitting image.
put on the sunglasses, we'll see.
start speaking Spanish.
Someone said, I thought Bad Bunny was the girl from Dr. Phil.
You need a better tracksuit.
That's true. I should get a tracksuit. What would you guys do if I just started
Cut
wearing
down to your
tracks?
navel.
All right, we just got another one. This is from Savannah. Her name is Savannah. Didn't get to chat it well in the hospital, but we just had our 5th baby.
Oh, God
all right.
bless
5,
you. God
yes.
bless you.
Let's
Good
go.
for
5
you.
Patriots. The Patriot population must be increased. This is a numbers game. The Muslims understand this. We need to understand this as well.
Amen.
So let's see. This is from Mike G. Watched Phil's Nigeria episode, seeing these communist anti-Christian attacks around the world and here in the U.S. Time for the Pope to appoint a Holy Roman Emperor and bless a new crusade. Wow.
Hot take.
What was your Nigeria episode?
So the on the culture war this past Friday, we had a couple guys that have some inside information about the killing of Christians in Nigeria.
Oh, so the recent. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Right.
So apparently, in the past 20 years, something like 300,000 Christians have been killed.
That's right.
They're
Bill Maher, to his credit, brought this up.
yeah.
You sure did?
Yeah. So and so we spent 2 hours talking about that, and they have some ideas as to what the United States can do. They were basically looking to get the Secretary of State to name Nigeria I forget what the specific phrase was, but basically to get some attention from the State Department and possibly get the president to make some remarks or start looking into this. They believe that if the U.S. pays a little more attention, that the government of Nigeria will respond and
Stop
actually
allowing this genocide against
yeah,
Christians.
basically,
Sounds like a good idea.
The president and basically the president of Nigeria and the president's whole cabinet, they're Muslims, and so they kind of turn a blind eye because there's a lot of tribalism and such in Nigeria, and the Muslims are in the north. And the Christians are in the south, and that's where there's oil there that's offshore. If you look at the map of Nigeria, the north of Nigeria is a lot of desert and grasslands, whereas the south gets more rain, and that's where the resources are. And so the Muslims are pushing further south to go after resources and stuff. And it's really just a bad situation for all of the Christians involved. So we had a discussion about it and wanted to shed some light on the situation.
That's great, and I'm reading the chats. A lot of people said it was a disturbing episode, but it was a good episode. A lot of people saying that how do you not call that a Christian genocide? I mean, it just by any definition.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Actually, and by the way, Seamus, we are getting another question here that says, Seamus, where is Twisted Plots at? I want to donate to my fellow plastic potato.
Oh, thank you. So you can literally just go to twistedplots.com. It'll take you to our Give, Send, Go page. We have our pitch video there, which explains what the show is, how we're budgeting it, where the money's going, so that we're being good stewards over these resources and we're making something good with it. I'm really transparent through this whole thing about exactly what our goal is. So go over to twistedplots.com. And if you donate within the first 24 hours of the campaign, you will get to see our pilot episode. It's a 25-minute pilot. We're not going to release it for a little while here. And you will be able to see it if you donate. After 24 hours is up, only people who donate more than $25 will get to see it. But right now, anyone donating any amount will get to see our pilot.
There you
I need
go.
to take some tips from you on how to raise cash for a campaign.
That's not bad. That's not
if
bad.
you donate now, you can get in the captain's table of my campaign, Captain Morgan's table, and we'll send you a free bill about making English the official language.
Oh,
Listen, I like that too.
See, that's
I like
not
that too.
bad.
That I could fundraise for, I think.
Well, we should shout that out. We got a couple of minutes left, but tell us again about the where people can go to check out more about the campaign. Tell us also, why was it that you decided, at this point in your life with everything that's going on, especially in the wake of all this political violence that we have seen, that you've decided to sort of step forward and say, I want, here I am, Lord, I'm going to go for it. Here I am, send me. Why do it now?
I started it in prayer, prayed a lot about it, and I wasn't going to talk about my faith actually on the campaign trail because, as you know, as a Protestant Christian, I quoted Jesus a lot. Let them see your faith by your works and not your words. And so I told a lot of those closest to me that I didn't really want to talk about my faith a lot on the campaign trail. And after Charlie, I realized how wrong that was. And I needed to speak about it more openly and more forthrightly, and that's a gift that he gave to me. But I chose to run because I really believe that we need to keep the MAGA movement going. January 21st, 2029, Washington is going to want to snap back to the way things have always been done.
Yeah.
And we cannot let that happen. There are a lot of people now who claim to love President Trump because he's winning. We have all three branches of government. We've got both houses of Congress. We're firmly in control of the executive branch, majority on the Supreme Court. But back in 2021, it was a really unpopular time. You were there.
Well, I
really
remember.
unpopular
I
time to
remember.
be a Republican, and especially an unpopular time to be a MAGA Republican. It was incredibly lonely, and Tommy Tuberville is one of the strongest MAGA voices in the entirety of Congress, certainly the strongest MAGA voice in the Senate. And we can't afford to lose that. For some reason, a lot of deeply red states send what I call squish representatives to Congress. I don't know why this is. Deep blue states don't. Deep blue states send Elizabeth Warren. They send Bernie Sanders. But deep
It's
red states,
like Susan Collins. I can understand Susan Collins from Maine.
yeah, she's a border state,
right. She's Remain, right. It's blue,
Yeah.
and she can get elected because of a certain confluence of issues up there.
Right.
Fine, but then
Alabama. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Like let's send a full-throated MAGA conservative to the U.S. Senate. That's why I'm running, because we just can't afford to let that go. We cannot let Tommy Tuberville is going to be an awesome governor for the state. We need him in the state of Alabama. I actually begged him not to leave the Senate because his voice is so strong there. So I didn't want to run. I felt called to run.
I like that. And tell people the website again.
The website, thank you for that.
See, Seamus, you got to help
That's
him.
awesome.
You got to help
me
him
out.
I'll
I'm
give you
new at this
tips.
campaigning stuff. I haven't run for dog catchers, so
Maybe I should.
Wait,
get
I
into this consulting
actually
business.
kind of like that he doesn't even know to. Oh yeah, hit the fundraising.
Yeah, I got to hit the
actually fair.
fundraising.
That's
thing.
actually.
fair.
You don't want the guy.
Good quality.
You don't want the guy that turns every answer into a fundraiser.
I apologize to my whole campaign staff. Yeah,
Your finance director is
I know
like
he's
losing
like
his
sitting
mind
at
right
home.
now.
His head just exploded. My website is murphyforsenate.com.
MurphyForSenate.com. Very, very simple.
You can't miss it. Go see my battleship video.
Okay.
My launch video was shot in front of the USS Alabama. I believe, Jack, we need to bring back the battleship. Not the old ones. We need to make new battleships now that can withstand drones, that can pack it full of awesome technology. Tommy Tuberville, a lot of people don't know this, but he's the head of Sea Power, and we need a head of Sea Power who loves the Navy.
Look, we had a great day with the Navy yesterday. Fine Navy day, as they say.
Fine Navy day.
And
Usually it's a terrible day when it's a fine Navy.
when you say fine Navy
day,
day, it doesn't give me.
How is it? It's 30 below and it's sleeting.
Well, and I mean,
it's a fine Navy day.
to be there aboard the Bush, and I hear the piping, and they say, President, United States of America,
arriving.
Well, actually,
Or no, when he comes on.
he had already arrived at this point, because I heard the pipe and I said, "What's going on?" And because on the flight deck when he arrived, he was getting on the 1MC.
Oh,
And he gets on the 1MC. That's the internal
Mic.
microphone
the
and PA.
whole crew.
It's the PA system, right? For the whole. And this wasn't for the cameras. This wasn't televised. He just talked to the whole crew, and he told them how
5,000 people.
how great they were. I mean, it's a city at sea. And talked to them about how great they were, how much he loved being there, how much he loved the Navy, how much he supported them. By the way, the First Lady had a great time yesterday. She loved it.
I saw the clips you
If
posted.
you see the videos, if you see some of the videos when she gets up there and she goes, "Hoo-yah, Navy!" and she's giddy. You see the First Lady, and she's known for her poise and her glamour, and she's Versace and Gucci and all this, but I saw a side of First Lady Melania Trump that I'm not used to seeing.
Gucci went overboard.
Gucci overboard, and she's just loving it. She spent the entire time on the flight. They were there about an hour and a half on the flight deck, which a little
They're
bit
landing
dangerous.
those F-35s I've done that. 30 feet away from you. They're close.
right there,
Right
and
there.
they had the FA-18 did the sonic boom just right off the bow.
No better pilots on Earth.
right off port side from them, and didn't flinch. Didn't flinch at all. It was amazing to see. It was amazing.
No, we've got to have a strong Navy, and that's one of my core platform pieces. Is Congress has mandated a 350 ship Navy, and we're at 285.
We're not right. We're close.
We're nowhere near that, and we haven't been that. I mean, we're just openly admitting we do not have the adequate number of ships we need to deter aggression.
Which, by the way, spurs shipbuilding, which spurs jobs, which spurs domestic manufacturing.
Last year,
all the
China
rest of
built
it.
900 ships, including commercial ships. We built 7.
And it's worth noting that all of any ship built in China has to be built to standards that the military could, take
Right.
that
Well,
ship.
now they're double hulled,
Yeah.
right? And so ships are much harder to sink. We just don't have the firepower right now. Our Navy is dispersed around the world, and we have the finest Navy in the world, but there's just not enough of them. We need to double the fleet. And that's what I'm running on, is double the size of the fleet.
You're talking almost Reagan numbers.
Yeah, well, definitely Reagan numbers. We have to have it. Merchant Marine, we've got to modernize. And if we don't do that, we're a maritime nation. At its core, the United States is a maritime nation. And so we've got to have
No,
a
we
strong
could.
Navy.
I could go 2 hours with you.
Let's
on
do
the
it.
importance of that.
Let's do
But
it.
I do also like how President Trump has reiterated as well the concept of hemispheric defense.
That's right.
And that we shouldn't have any business going all around the world. Yes, of course, the shipping lanes and South China Sea and all the rest of it, and the Red Sea and
Make the Monroe
the
Doctrine
answer.
great again.
Yeah, we know all the slocks, right? But at the same time, if we've let the homeland, we've let our hemisphere, if we let the Gulf of America be completely subservient to other countries, then no, we absolutely can't have that. We have to focus on our home first. And by the way, you think the Russians would do that? You think the Chinese? Look at the Russians do with the Black Sea.
Oh.
Look what the Chinese do with the South China Sea. We're the only ones who are so stupid is that we don't actually project our power into our own neighborhood.
Well, you raised your hand, and I raised my hand to protect this country and the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Oh, yeah.
And while we were fighting
That other
while
part.
we were fighting a lot of foreign enemies, we let a lot of domestic enemies here grab the reins.
Speaking of domestic enemies, Phil Bonte.
I don't know what you're talking about there, Jack.
Bad man, Phil.
I did call you a communist last time I was on.
Yeah, I know, but you're a ridiculous man, so it's okay.
That's okay. I just love our flag.
Are we doing the?
I totally would, but we're out of time.
Okay. Well, if you are looking to follow me on X, I am Phil That Remains. The band is All That Remains, and you can check the band out on Apple Music, Amazon Music, Pandora, Spotify, Deezer. We are going on tour next year. We just announced a show at Welcome to Rockville down in Daytona, Florida. There will be more shows that will be announced as they become, as we are able to announce them. We'll be out for about 3 weeks, so keep an eye out. All That Remains on the road in your town in probably in May. So
It's huge.
Yeah,
Congrats, man.
Thank
That's
you very
awesome.
much. It'll be good. It'll be a good time to get out there on the road. It'll be the first time that I'm going to be on tour, also having a newborn. Well, a toddler, baby at the same time.
You're
we'll
going to
see
feel
how
like
that
you're on
goes.
vacation.
Yeah. You're gonna
Don't
be
tell.
You'll be like, see you later.
That's what
I'm having to work to the bone.
By the way,
out here.
that reminds me of
That's what I
with
hear, but
this
don't
Bad
forget the Left
Bunny-
Lane is for Crime.
Left Lanes for Crime. No, there's no announcements, but people keep asking me. I had this tweet that went pretty viral that I definitely did not have Turning Point approval for, about should Turning Point hold a alternative halftime show to Bad Bunny, and what if we got Creed to perform?
Oh my God.
Now, yeah, Phil, what you just mentioned reminded me. So Alter Bridge has a tour in Europe. Now, this is the side project of the other Creed members.
It's Creed. Yeah, it's Creed. Just it doesn't have Scott Stapp.
So they will be on tour. However, Scott Stapp is not part of Alter Bridge, so he will not be in Europe during the Super Bowl. All I'm saying is no announcements. I'm not here to announce anything. We've got a lot of attention about it. We've got a lot of interest in it. The media has been blowing us all up. And other artists and types have, we've gotten a lot of inquiries and a lot of communication. And all I will say is no announcements, but conversations. We're at the conversation.
We did a tour with Alter Bridge in 2017, going into 18.
That's
Great
sick.
guys. Some of the most, again, super pro, incredibly accommodating for us. It was a great time, and so it would be really cool to see Alter Bridge playing a show, at the Super Bowl halftime, as opposed.
I can't get Alter Bridge though, because the Alter Bridge is in.
Oh yes,
Europe.
yes.
Yeah, so we'd have to get Scott without them, and or maybe we can virtually sync it up or something. I don't know if they have the technology for that, but we do have the technology for the members only hour, which is going to be starting soon, where we're also going to be talking about more libs, and specifically hick lib music. So make sure you follow, make sure you check that out. You want to follow me at Jack Posobiec. I'm the host of Human Events Daily. You can check that out at humanevents.com. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, you have my permission to lay ashore.